You know what, Sam?
What?
It's time to go down the stretch.
Yes, it is. So it is time to go down the stretch. We have 26 games left before the end of the
Yeah,
season, or
not
25.
too many left. Not too many left.
Nope, not too many at all. But that does give you guys an opportunity to use a promo code, right,
Yes,
Sam?
you can use promo code Caniac Report on SeatGeek, and you can get $20 off your first purchase. Whether you want to go to see a Hurricanes game, whether maybe you're a Capitals fan and want to go watch Ovechkin chase Gretzky's goal record, you can use our promo code. I mean, why not? Those tickets are expensive, no matter what they are at this point. Um, do you want to go to a concert or comedy show or whatever, you can use the promo code, get your $20 off. Again, like I've said every episode, why would you want to leave money on the table?
Yes, it's a great deal. And we also have a link for donations too. So if you feel like you want to donate, it's in the description, both on YouTube if you're watching us and other traditional podcast stuff too. And remember, if you are watching or listening to us on either traditional podcasts side of things or on YouTube, remember, hit the notification bell, subscribe, leave a comment on YouTube, and leave a rating and a review wherever you get your podcast because it helps us out a ton. And also, Sam, you were at a game, but it was not affiliated with the Hurricanes, was it?
No, it was not. I went to see the Pittsburgh Penguins play the Washington Capitals up in Pittsburgh. uh, it was a fun game. I thought it was great. I think it's one of the best in-game experiences that you will have as a fan. I would rank it probably, as all the games I've been to this season, as number one. It's excellent. The fans there are great. We met some guys there at the end of the game, and we went to a bar and hung out and had some drinks. They paid for food and drinks. I mean, they were just about as nice as can be. Great experience in Pittsburgh. Very, very different than if you were to probably go to a game in Philadelphia, which is at the other side of the state. But I just Pittsburgh was fantastic. I've made that decision that when Carolina plays there, hopefully next year, I'm going to make it a point to go.
Okay. And didn't you say that it was a bit of a smaller arena too
It's
compared to
smaller
one
by about a
ago?
thousand seats. By about 1,000 seats, so PNC Arena fills more, has more space.
Interesting. Well,
Yep,
you got to see Washington really hammer Pittsburgh.
I did, but I also got to
Washington's
see
not a
Sidney
tear.
Crosby score a goal in Pittsburgh, which is also pretty cool. But it was great to see
Yeah.
because I had never seen one of the biggest rivalries in sports was Crosby and Ovechkin, so I got to see that rivalry in person, which was really cool.
Well, that's awesome. I can tell your ambition is to try and hit all the NHL stadiums, aren't you?
I would
One
like to
day.
do that at some point. Yeah,
Yeah,
knock them all
I
out. It'd be
bet that'd
fun.
be cool. Yep. Another thing too, Sam, our country did not win in the Four
No,
Nations tournament. It was Canada. So if you are from Canada, listening to us, I do know there are a few Canadians that do listen to us. Congrats to you
yeah,
guys, and particularly to Seth Jarvis because he was a part of Team Canada and
yeah,
obviously a huge part of the Hurricanes.
yes.
So congrats to him, Sam. That was a really good game through most of it. Uh, I watched like the first three periods. When it got to overtime, I was like, I need to bed because I had work the next day. But that was a good game.
Yeah, it was a good game. It was a fun game to watch. A lot on the line for both countries, but Canada reigns supreme as the primary hockey country. Uh, you leave, you choose to put out Noah Hannafin and company against Connor McDavid, and you're going to get Noah Hannafin doing Noah Hannafin things, and Connor McDavid will do Connor McDavid things, and you're going to get a goal in overtime and well deserved goal. Uh, expected when
Mm-hmm.
when McDavid gets left alone in the slot like that.
Yep.
Team USA have been very, very staunch defensively. All four nations. Jacob Slavin, in my mind, honestly was the best player in the four nations. I think he was. one of the main reasons U.S. had done as well as they had. Um, and it's just a reality that you get. McDavid leaving McDavid alone at the slot in overtime normally is not going to end well for you. It did not end well here at all, and that's what you get.
Yeah, and now that was the rematch. The championship was the rematch of U.S. and Canada because the first game was like an all-out brawl. Like what, 3 fights in the first 9 seconds? That's crazy. I
Yep, that
couldn't.
was all staged.
Yeah, well, I could not watch any of those games. You know why? For those who are listening that don't know why, that weekend I was in Florida. My sister lives down there, and she got married. So that weekend, I was trying. I was keeping up with it a little bit, but being a groomsman and all at my sister's wedding, a little bit hard. But it, uh, I mean, I'm sure it was fun for you guys that did watch that and a few other games, but yeah, that's part of the reasons why we had to pre-record the mid-season grades because I had that wedding. So
Yeah. Well, the only other thing I'll say about the Four Nations, and it's just, and I would be willing to bet you agree, stop booing the national anthems. Come on.
yes, yeah,
Come on.
I agree.
It's so stupid. If you're Canadian, grow up. If you're American, grow up. There's no need. The point of the national anthem is to pay respect to the men and women who serve our country. It's not for
Yeah,
political purpose. It's not. Like every single nation does it. It is not meant for Sweden did it, Finland did it, US did it, and Canada did it. All four nations had their national anthem sung. Only Canada's and US's were booed, and Canada and America, respectively. Stop. I mean, it was good to see that most of the people in both of these stadiums didn't do it, but it's like, come on, there is no reason to boo the national anthem. Just get over yourselves. You're immature, and it's embarrassing. Like, come on, don't embarrass your country and don't embarrass yourselves. Don't boo it. Get over it. Move forward, and just understand what the point of the national anthem is. Because if you keep booing it and you keep making it a problem, guess what they're going to do? They're just going to get rid of it, and they're just not going to sing it anymore at all because it's going to become a problem. So
yeah,
stop.
I
Just
agree.
stop. They did it with the
Trust me.
jerseys. They're
Yep,
going to freaking do it with the national anthem too. I promise you they will. And nobody wants that. I don't want that. I know you don't
I
want
don't.
that. And I'm willing to bet every single one of our listeners doesn't want that. So grow up. Don't boo it. Understand the purpose of it. If you don't, then you're just ignorant and you're a fool. But stop booing the national anthem. The Four Nations event was awesome. It was hardworking players really playing hard, so much better than the All-Star game. And if you want stuff like this to keep happening, be respectful, or else they're not going to keep, or they're not going to do it anymore. Because if that's the
Well,
narrative, they're not going to do it. There's no point.
well, well, I mean, you look at the viewership of the Four Nations, Sam. Like it turned out to be spectacular. I believe the
Absolutely.
champion I can't remember if it was the championship game or the first US Canada game, but I think one of the numbers was like the largest numbers the NHL got in like 30 plus years of
Yeah.
viewership. Like that's amazing.
Yeah, which is what you want. And that's why, I mean, it's great because it's a little pre-Olympics. And look,
Yeah.
I have nothing wrong with a little national rivalry, right? Canada, the US. Oh, I want that rivalry. I love that rivalry. Keep it on the ice.
Yeah.
Like you want to talk,
It,
you want to talk
it was
trash
like
about
that.
Canada's roster? Talk trash about Canada's roster. That's fine. That's part of the game. You trash talk. The problem we have is the booing of the anthems, but what we got here was amazing because of that rivalry that's there between the US and America. And this is really honestly the first time I think America rolled out one of the best rosters it has
Yep.
ever had. And the compete level was there. I think this was America's, in my mind, America's to lose. And I think it came down to a coaching mistake. I think Mike Sullivan's one of the best coaches in the league. Came down to a coaching mistake. Hannafin and them should never have been out against McDavid. And it came down to those players messing up to where you probably were like, yeah, probably is going to be a problem. And it was because Connor McDavid is the best player in the world. I hate his guts, but he scored a beautiful goal. But you're right, the
Yes.
viewership was amazing. The compete was amazing. The it went off. The event was produced superbly. Um, I think my only complaint is next time I'd like to see Russia in it.
Yes.
I understand why Russia's not in it right now, but there are so many good Russian players in the league um, that I would love to see them play, and then just would be a really fun event to have. But we're probably going to get some Russian players when we get to the Olympics, and I this has made me more excited for the Olympics, as I'm sure it has made a lot of people.
Yes, definitely. And another thing too, I loved in the championship game before the game started that they had Wayne Gretzky come out for Team Canada and Mike Ruzioni for Team USA. For those of you who don't know Gretzky, if you don't know Wayne Gretzky, you're living under a rock. But if you don't know Mike Ruzioni, he played for the 1980 U.S. hockey team that was one of the best underdog games in sports history. There's a great movie on it with Miracle. I highly suggest watching that movie if you like hockey movies, if you haven't watched it. So it was just a great event all around. Sam, let's get to a couple stuff around the league, though, because we're now back to talking about NHL news and Hurricanes news. But
Yep.
this was interesting. Kevin Weeks reported this. He revealed that the NHL met with an undisclosed group, so we don't know what who the group is, but they talked with them about bringing a team to New Orleans or New Orleans,
Really?
which
A
is
hockey team to New
interesting.
Orleans?
Yes.
I don't know how well that's going to go off. That is football town.
It is football town, but you know what? Hey, you could say Raleigh is basketball town, and yet you know what?
Yeah, but Raleigh grows. I don't know how fast like New Orleans has grown. And we benefited and like, let's not lie, we benefited from the fact that the Triangle has a lot of people from up north that move here who already liked hockey. So there were a lot of
True.
factors that made Raleigh work really well. That and the team was really good to start off, like a Stanley Cup final appearance within the first 5 years of the team's franchise history. You won a Stanley Cup within the first 10 years as well. So, I mean, of course it could work. It really could, right? If you put hockey in
It
Arizona
could.
and it worked initially, I mean, sure, maybe New Orleans can work. That's not really where I would go. I still think should be Atlanta or maybe
I heard
Quebec
Houston
City.
was a team.
Yeah, Houston, Quebec City, Hartford. I just I don't see New Orleans as a serious option right now, especially
It's
because
interesting. It's very interesting.
Arizona, I think, will go first because
See,
they.
I haven't heard anything about them bringing Arizona back, so I don't know.
Well, I think the league wants to have Arizona hockey back.
I wonder how much of it is because Wayne Gretzky was a huge uh, voice in bringing Arizona a hockey team. So
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I want Arizona or Atlanta. I hate that Atlanta failed when it did. Again, I love Southern hockey markets, so I like the idea of New Orleans.
Mhm.
I have other areas in the South I think that make more sense. So like I think
I
Houston,
agree,
and
but
I
it's
think
interesting.
it is. I think Houston and Atlanta are your two better options, mainly because Atlanta's a very big city. It's growing,
Mhm.
uh, and we've seen some very successful expansion teams now. That it might make sense. I mean, heck, if Buffalo can't make the playoffs, maybe you just relocate Buffalo. But because at some point it's going to get bad where the team you just can't afford to do what you do anymore. Um, and the fans are going to stop showing up, and I think rightfully so. When you miss the playoffs for well over a decade now, it's as we know.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't even miss it as long as Buffalo, I think, has because Buffalo's
No.
streak goes back to I think halfway through ours, if not even a little bit before. I'm not entirely certain how long they've missed the playoffs, but it's been a while. But I mean, yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, you could look at New Orleans and you can say, okay, well, you could relocate Buffalo. You can, and then, by the way, there are no rumors that Buffalo could be relocated. It's just those bums up there talked about us relocating when we were trash. It's our turn to talk about them relocating. but it would. I mean, it makes sense, right? Buffalo's not doing well. Their ticket sales probably aren't very good. It's a thing that makes sense. You look at California. If San Jose never figures it out, that's a team that you could see move because their seats aren't being filled either. Anaheim's the same way. Do I think any of these teams relocate? No, those are just teams off the top of my head that honestly make sense for relocation if that were to ever happen. Um, Again, do they relocate? Probably not. They've had pretty solid markets for a long, long time. So most likely it's expansion in these areas. But if you want to do New Orleans, I guess you probably throw them in the Western Conference.
Yeah.
I
You never
guess
know. There could be a rivalry with St. Louis there.
with St. Louis and Dallas.
Or Dallas, maybe. Yeah. Dallas might be
So I
closer.
mean, yeah. I mean it could work. It puts I would if you put a team in New Orleans, I think you need to do a division realignment. Because then I kind of think, okay, do you want to have Dallas, New Orleans, St. Louis, Florida, and Florida in the same division?
I don't know how that's gonna go, but it 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 it'd be interesting if there was any realignment of the divisions, because that would mean one division has more team than the others. So
Well, I think they need to do a realignment now. To be
big,
100% honest with you, like I think Florida, Tampa, and Nashville all need to be in the same division, and Carolina.
and Carolina, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and I mean
I
I
think you
agree
need
with
to
it. Yeah,
reconstruct the Southeast Division. That's my opinion. I think you start with Washington and you go south, but and then I think you move Columbus out west again. I'm just saying I think there needs to be a realignment. I know people have talked about it before, but I think you should realign the divisions. And I'm trying to fill this podcast with other things because I really will have nothing to contribute to the game because I did not watch it.
that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I know you didn't watch it, but here's another thing too, Sam. Someone requested a trade. That is from Chicago. Seth Jones was the person that requested the trade,
No shock.
and it doesn't shock me. He's been with the team
Mm-mm.
for quite some time. He's a right-handed defenseman. I think I think he's a top four defenseman playing on a bad team.
Yep.
So I could see him getting traded, and I mean, considering he's a right-handed defenseman, you might get some value for him. Might.
Yeah, I think so. Um, and he's not a bad defenseman. He's a decent defenseman on a really bad team.
Yep,
The only problem you're going to have here is his contract is very extravagant.
it
So it
is.
is a very large number. Um, there are teams who can absorb it. San Jose, Anaheim being probably two of them.
Would you
I
rather
don't.
have him or Brent Burns?
Oh, Seth Jones. Seth Jones is younger, but even then, I don't want Seth Jones either. Mainly because I don't want that contract.
But yeah, that's funny. You pick almost and would you pick a tree over Brent Burns at this
Hmm.
point, Sam?
No, I mean, look, I didn't watch the game the other night. I know I listened to Adam Gold's take of the game, and it sounds like Burns again was awful, like
He
really
mentioned
bad.
me in his episode.
So that was you that he
Yeah,
mentioned when
that
you
was
gave
me.
him
Yep.
when you gave him Philip Zadina's his
Yep.
name. Okay, yeah. So Burns was, from what I was told, Burns was really bad. I did not watch the game. I cannot comment on it. I can only go with what Adam
Yeah, I know.
said, and it sounds like this case is that Sebastian Aho played his worst game as a Hurricane, and that Brent Burns was really, 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 really bad too. But it just in general, it sounds like it was a bad night for the team. But
Bad
yeah,
first period.
I would take a lot of players over Brent Burns at this point, only because age, I think, is a factor here. And
Yes,
again,
it is.
I want to say one thing about Brent Burns. It is awesome that this guy had all the control in the world and he was willing to waive his contract to come to Carolina. This is a Hall of Famer. He's been an excellent player his entire career. And we're to the point now where these players want to come to Carolina, right? Orlov wanted to come here. I don't like the contract, but he wanted to play here. He was arguably the best defenseman available at that on that free agency, or the best
Yep.
even player available then. We got him. You had Brent Burns willing to waive his no trade clause to come to Carolina, one of the best defensemen in the league for years. That's awesome. So you're getting these players who are like, players that we grew up watching that were just storming the league, being like, oh, I want to come to Carolina. I want to play here. I want to finish out my career here. And I think that is awesome. And I'll always love that for getting Burns. The reality is, and it is for every single player, once you get into your late 30s, early 40s, your capabilities dry up. If you want to argue that Brent Burns is still a good player, that's fine. I don't think you have any evidence to support that. You just want to support him for Burns, that's fine. Do I still think he is a capable player? Yeah, I think he's fine. I mean, what else? What is the other option? I would say is Morrow, and I know for some reason Adam Gold's not high on him. I really don't know why. Dude's tearing it up in the minor league right now. Does that always translate to the NHL? No, but I think Scott Morrow's capable.
I don't trust Adam Gold when it comes to Hurricane prospects, but how about this? Because of time, let's go to our sponsor and then we'll talk about the Hurricanes. Want to do that real quick here?
Works for me.
It might not feel like it, but spring's right around the corner. Know how you can tell? Golfers are hitting the links and have some tournaments to talk about. And if you want to do more than just talk, put your money where your mouth is. Get in on all the tee to green action with DraftKings Sportsbook. From Thursday's opening round through the closing round Sunday, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with tournament props, live betting odds, odd boots, and so much more. If you've never bet on golf before, it's easier than you think. Just pick something simple like a golfer to win the tourney and make your pick. It's just that easy. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-878-97777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Blue Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. All right, Sam. So, I know we'd already talked about the Four Nations, but
Yes.
obviously we had quite a few players representing the Hurricanes. Aho Rantanen, I mean, we were talking about maybe they get chemistry. They didn't, really.
They never played.
And they never played.
And
there
Finland
was one,
wasn't very good.
No, they had injuries.
And Rantanen wasn't very good.
Well, he got a goal.
Yeah, he did. I think he had one good game.
There was an assist from Aho on that goal, but it was on the power play. So,
yeah. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't impressed with Aho or Rantanen on the Four Nations. But we'll see what happens. I mean, this was the first game back. Again, even with Toronto, I'm not taking a lot of it. Carolina has always struggled coming right off of a break.
Well, I have my thing with the whole Rantanen thing, and this kind of includes the game, but we'll get to that later. But another thing too, Jarvis played for Canada. Sam, he got limited ice time. I mean,
younger guy.
There were a couple games he didn't play. He's a young guy though. But from what I saw, especially in that championship game, he could have scored.
Yeah, he had a couple of chances to put the puck in the net. Typical Carolina Hurricanes hockey, though, not able to capitalize on your chances.
Yep. Just love it. And then, to me, the best player in the whole, not just the championship game, but in the whole Four Nations was Slavin. Yep. You even had Elliot Friedman saying how good he was. You had Austin Matthews saying how good he was. Like, Pierre LeBron was one of them too. I believe Frank Cervelli was one of them. He
Yep.
was so elite. And to me, I remember in that championship game where there was a wide open net for, I can't remember I think it was Crosby. I think
Probably.
it was Crosby, where wide open net, and then Slavin was able to kind of get on his backhand and just knock it out.
Yep.
And boy, that was just amazing. Oh my gosh. He was elite.
Yes.
And it makes you wonder because his line mate was Brock Faber. Now, am I saying we should get Brock Faber? No, but considering how good he was and him playing with the Hurricanes and playing with Brent Burns, makes you wonder, Sam. It kind of does. You saw that tweet, right?
I have made my comments on what needs to happen with Burns and Slavin many times. I have
Yeah.
nothing else to add to that situation. I have nothing else to
Listen,
add.
I agree. I agree.
Again, it's not a knock on Burns. Everyone thinks this is a knock on Burns. These criticisms, these mistakes he made, I don't attribute it to him being a bad player because he's not a bad player. He's an older player. He's almost 40. Dude's one of the most in shape people on the team, but so is Rod Brindamore. Rod Brindamore could not play an NHL game today.
No, he couldn't.
He could not. It's too fast. And the game is continuing to get faster. And just reality is Burns is getting older. It is not a knock on Burns. It's not saying Burns is an atrocious player. It's part of reality.
Really aged. I mean, when I see that he's 39 years old and he's making a lot of mistakes and having trouble kind of keeping up with the game, it has to be age.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else.
Absolutely. It's nothing. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just part of reality. That's why hockey players don't play it to their 60s. It's because they can't.
Yeah. Yager tried and nobody, once he got into his 40s, nobody signed him. So,
oh no, he played in his 40s. It's when he got closer to his 50s, I think, when they were done with him. But
really, I thought it was in his 40s. I could be wrong.
Maybe it was. I don't really remember how old he was when he stopped playing in the NHL.
But
I'll find
regardless, regardless, though, Sam and I do agree on the whole thing of Brent Burns. Another thing too, Sam, we did get some good news. Tyson Jost was at practice recently before the Toronto game, and he was wearing a regular practice jersey. And yes, he did play the game against Toronto. I mean, obviously the Hurricanes lost, but it's nice seeing the guy getting back to being healthy. And now here's a topic, Sam, because it was
Yager was 45 in his last year of the NHL.
45, good lord. Man, that's crazy. But it was reported last night, Sam, from Elliot Friedman in his Saturday headlines that the Hurricanes met with, Tulski met with Rantanen's rep.
Yep.
And he offered like a 9-figure range. So it's at least $12.5 million. We just don't know the exact numbers. And here's my thing, and this is why I was a little bit frustrated with the loss against Toronto. These next 5 games have a double meaning.
Yes.
Not only are you trying to gain home ice advantage in the playoffs, but you're also trying to gain another selling point for Tulski to try and sign Rantanen.
Yep.
That's why I was frustrated. I was like, do you guys know what's at stake here?
And
like,
from what
if I
Adam
was Rantanen,
said, it sounded like Rantanen had a good game.
He did. He really did have a good game. But if I was Rantanen and we had a losing record while I was here, that's not going to bode well for me trying to resign.
No, which is understandable too.
Yeah. So
but
it's just.
I mean, we'll have to wait and see. That time will tell what happens, I guess, with signing him. And I also won't lie. I lean more on the side of keep him even through the deadline.
Yes, I do too.
Because
I think I see the argument for both sides, but if I was the Hurricanes, I'd keep him.
Unless you're getting like firsts or like a Marner back, I don't see if it makes sense. I just don't think it makes sense. Or you get a guy with a lot of term. If you trade Rantanen for like Tage Thompson, absolutely, I do that every day of the week. But you need to be getting a guy with term that fills a definite need,
Yes.
or else high end prospects or high draft picks. So if it's not that, then I'm sorry. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Just because I'd rather keep him as a rental and then use our cap space this offseason if Marner doesn't resign to try and sign Marner. Sign whoever the heck wants to come here, make a trade. I don't care. Uh, but it doesn't make sense to me to um to trade him. I don't know if it puts us in a position to win. If we're
I
trying to win, if
I
this trade was
completely
meant
agree.
If we're trying to win, we have Rantanen. We're automatically contender. I don't care if he's having a struggled start. He's going to figure it out because he's that good of a player. He is having to deal with the shock of, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to be in Colorado,
Yeah.
and he's
Well,
not.
you know what's interesting. So I saw this. I think it was in an article about Rantanen on the Athletic, from Corey Lavalette, who we've had here in our most recent episode. Uh, he, I remember him. He said that when we acquired Doug Waite, his first 6 games he was non-existent. Mark Recchi, when we acquired him back in 06, his first 6 or 7 games wasn't that good. And look what happened.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, you have to give it time. Uh,
Yes.
I'm not willing to move the guy unless it is for like swapping him with Marner or something to that extent.
And no offense to Ranston, but I mean, it's not like he has raised his trade value ever since he's gotten here. His
No,
value is probably the same, but he hasn't raised it.
no. So to me, it's like, okay, why would I do that? I mean, sure,
Yeah.
if we retain half, maybe we get something ridiculous in return. But I don't understand. I mean, heck, if we give Buffalo the opportunity to talk to him and he wants to sign in Buffalo, yeah, I'll trade you Rantanen. But guess what? You're gonna freaking give me Tage Thompson. Otherwise, you're not making this deal. Not that that happens, but that's the kind of trade I accept. Like, I don't want to trade him for picks and prospects unless they're
Yeah.
high picks and high end prospects. Because then maybe that makes sense. Like, if it's like a top 6 center prospect, sure, that's something we need. It needs to fill
What,
a need.
Columbus for Cade and Lindstrom?
Well, I'd want more than just Kate Lindstrom, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
would too.
that's like the kind of thing we're talking about. Like, if the deal fills a need, right? If it makes sense and fills a need, which in my mind, if you trade Rantanen, there has to be a number 2 center involved in the deal.
Yes.
If it's not, then let him walk. Trade him for a third or a second
Or Marner.
for, yeah, or Marner. Right? It just, unless you're getting an equivalent back or fills a need, then keep him for the playoffs and just see what happens. Maybe you win a Stanley Cup and he's like, heck, I want a cup here. I want to stay. Now, I don't think Carolina's goaltending is in a position to win a Stanley Cup, but we'll see. Unless Freddie plays extra good, because Kochetkov ain't it, man. He ain't it. I don't know if he's ever going to be it, but right now I don't think he's it.
Well, so my whole thing with goaltending is like you honestly you just don't know where you're going to get with honestly either Kochetkov or Anderson. I think what we're all praying, and I think probably what the Hurricanes are praying too, is one of them gets hot in the
Yeah,
playoffs. The
absolutely.
only thing that I'd probably do in the playoffs differently this time is I'd probably treat our goalies more as a tandem than riding a goalie.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I don't know if we do it, but
Yeah. Yeah,
we'll
yeah, I
see.
know. I trust me, I have my doubts too. And the blue line, I have my doubts too, because of what we already talked about it, sort of.
Oh yeah,
But here,
Orlov Burns, but
yeah,
I mean,
here are
if
the
we both
next.
know that they can play, so it's not like maybe
Yeah,
Burns figures it out. Again, what I would really consider doing is maybe swapping him and Goss Despair
yeah,
for
I
the
wouldn't
rest of the
mind that.
season. And it's not that and I'm not even doing this as a knock on Burns. It's a fact that Burns plays all 82 games. You need to start to limit his ice time because last year you didn't, and he was atrocious in the playoffs. I mean, flat out horrific in the playoffs. A liability almost every game in the playoffs. And I think a lot of it had to do with he was just out of gas. So I think limiting his ice time going down the stretch is just, I think it helps you in the playoffs because he's going to play extended minutes less because he's a good penalty killer.
I
Again,
agree too.
I'm not taking that from him. I think he's a great penalty killer. But I think you have to start to maybe limit his 5-on-5 ice time just to bring those numbers down a little bit so he is capable and able to play those extra minutes in the playoffs. So, like I'd rather bank that time for the playoffs than in the regular season. No guarantee that that works. Playing 82 games, whether you play 15 minutes or 20 minutes, is probably it's a lot, and
It is.
especially when you're an older player. But it's more like I have to recognize Burns is on this team, not going to scratch him. So, all right, what can we do to make sure he's ready for the playoffs? And I think there's some practical things you can do.
Yeah, I agree. Um, let's get to the Toronto game and then we'll finish the episode, Sam. You're probably not going to be talking a lot during this game, but
No, I didn't
uh,
watch a lot.
first period. This was the period where I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Everything went to hell.
That's what I saw from my app. I was following the game on my phone, but yeah.
Oh man. I mean here's the thing. I mean Gachakov played the game, but he did not get any help at all. And to be honest, ever since the third period, I thought Aho had his worst game as a Hurricane. Uh, so one of the goals Camp scores to make it 3-0. That was Toronto's fourth line scoring on Aho's line. Sam, that's how bad we were in that first period. The Holmberg goal. Well, you know what? That was an own goal because Stahl found the puck in the crease, hit it off of Kachakov, and it went in.
Yeah, I heard that. I was like, oh, that's so sad.
The Steve's goal. This was when Burns messed up. Burns, uh, obviously, he was entangled along the back boards behind the goalie with a Toronto player. Forgot the player's name, but what you're supposed to do in a situation like that, if you're able to get the puck, you don't pass it right in front of the goalie. You pass it around the perimeter.
Yep.
But he passes it right in front of the goalie. Toronto player intercepts it, and Steve scores. So that was automatically on Burns. I don't know why in the world he did that, but it wasn't. Here's the thing: while he was bad, he wasn't the only one. Everybody pretty much was bad. There were only two players. One of them, I would say probably. I thought Slavin was okay, but even then, there were moments where I was like, eh. But honestly, Rantanen, I thought played a good game too. There was a shift where he made like 3 outstanding passes. So I believe it was either in the second or first. But you also have Tavares scoring. I think that fourth goal Kachekov probably needed to have. It went off of the glove and in. Wasn't a huge fan on that, but that made it 4-0. And yeah. But Hurricanes somehow made it a game. It was short lived though. They got better as the game went along, even though nothing happened in the second period. But in the third period, Sam, you have Ghost playing like he did very early in the season. He was dynamic. He scores from Aho and Sveshnikov. And then you have Sveshnikov scoring from a great pass from Rantanen, Sam. So Rantanen gets a point this game. He does. And also an assist on Ghost. So Ghost has 2 points. Svesh has 2 points. Rantanen has a point. Aho has a point. So you're getting points from your top guys, which is good. And then you have Slavin scoring from Stahl and Burns. And Sam, that was when I was just like, do we have a game? Oh my gosh. And also when we were down 4-0, I was like, you know what, Sam, or I think I texted this in our group chat. We need some David Ayers in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what's funny enough, that day was I believe what has it been 5 years? I believe is what
I
they
think it was
said.
long. I think it may have been longer. But yeah, 5 years sounds right though.
Yeah, 5 years from the day we played against Toronto last night, as we're recording this, was when the whole David Ayers game happened. So that was pretty cool. But obviously, Matthews and Holmberg's both score on the empty nets, and that was it. Hurricanes lost 6-3. I was really frustrated because I was like, you guys need to win this game for Rantanen.
Yeah.
Even though Rantanen played pretty good. It's really important to win these games post trade deadline, in my opinion.
Oh, it's not even post trade deadline. We're still pre.
Or pre. Sorry, I meant pre. My bad.
Yeah. Oh, we have Montreal and Buffalo, right?
So Montreal, which is Tuesday, we're at Montreal. And then we come home for Buffalo. That's good because I think, and even though Rantanen only got one home game, he needs to play a few home games under his belt, I think.
Yeah.
But that's Whalers night, and who knows? Despite the result of the game, maybe Whalers night will help him be like, no, this is a fun place to be in. So maybe he puts on the Whalers jersey. He's like, I'm sold. Give me the contract.
Absolutely. That would be nice.
That'd be very nice. And then the week after, which is the trade deadline on that Friday, or actually, my bad, Saturday, we're at home versus Edmonton. That's going to be probably the toughest game pre-trade deadline. And then Sunday is Calgary. Tuesday, we're at Detroit. And then Thursday, day before trade deadline, is here against Boston. So Edmonton's going to be a little bit tough, Sam, but I think this is a winnable schedule.
Yep.
So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yes.
But we will see you guys next time.